In your review, Cody, of A Quiet Place Day One, you said that it would be like you and your cat in the apocalypse. You obviously have two cats that we've talked about on the show.
Mm,
Between you and Ginny and Jimmy, who's surviving the longest in a Quiet Place style apocalypse?
that's a tough one. I mean, it's a tough apocalypse to say the least. I think Jenny and Jimmy, they're a bit too loud. I think the cat in A Quiet Place Day One may be the quietest and the chillest cat of all time. So I would say their lifespan, maybe like 30 minutes tops. And then, I mean, I'm probably going to be, there trying to protect him, so I might be involved. But I think I'm going to be pretty quiet. I think the thing for me is like I just like have a bad dream and start yelling or something. Or I don't know, I feel like when I'm unconscious, I like roll over and like fall off something. So I think I wouldn't last very long either, but definitely a lot longer than cats because I mean, you have a cat too, Corbin. There's no way you can stay that quiet for an entire movie.
Frodo the cat, no spoilers obviously to what happens to this cat, whether or not it survives, but like
Right.
it's a pretty fucking quiet cat. Let's just say that it manages to move quite swiftly through the world in which being loud is a very bad thing. Luna, our cat, she's not too loud. She occasionally will meow. She does a lot of scratching, like that. I think might do her in the occasional
Yeah.
purring. But for me, like you said, a bad dream. I'm a snorer. I'll admit it. There was someone snoring in the theater while Mina and I were watching this movie, and I, like them, would probably be taken out on the first chance I needed to take a nap.
That's true. That's the next sequel. I want a snoring kill in the Quiet Place universe. We haven't seen that yet, but yeah, I feel like I mean everybody makes some sort of noises. So the fact that these people are surviving as long as they did is pretty impressive, I think.
What'd you think about A Quiet Place Day One, Cody?
I mean, I enjoyed it. I think the thing for me, and I mean, we kind of talked about this in our last episode too with Furiosa, but it's really hard for me,
Prequelitis, man.
yeah, with these franchise movies to not compare them to the other movies in the franchise.
Definitely
And I mean, a whole new kind of creative team. Not really. I mean, John Krasinski's still involved. New director, new
produced it, but
cast.
different writers. It's not
Yeah.
the original writers.
So I like the take. I really like the concept too. I mean, putting this universe in New York City, I think is something that really, intrigued me and something I was like, man, with all of the noise that is in that city, and you can definitely attest to this more, now, obviously, but I think it's a great setting for kind of this franchise. So I think just the premise is cool. It's not really what I expected, which is definitely not a bad thing. Obviously, like Lupita Nyong'o's character, it's going through a lot of personal stuff that wasn't really advertised. And I really, really liked kind of everything involved with her. But it's just a little bit like less actiony. It's more of like a character piece than I expected, which isn't a bad thing. Kind of similar to Furiosa. But I did enjoy this movie a good deal. I think I'm kind of just a fan of this franchise. I really, really love the second one, especially. But I thought it was good. What were your thoughts, though?
I did like this movie. I agree that, again, it's living in the shadow of the other Quiet Place movies, which I also do enjoy. A Quiet Place Part Two is like one of the first movies post pandemic that I went and saw. Obviously, we snuck in a tennis screening in the middle there, but like A Quiet Place was like, okay, theaters are back open, movies are starting to be released again, theaters are back, and that was a highlight of that year for me. This movie, in the moments where it tries to be a prequel in like the direct sense, don't really
Yeah.
work for me. Obviously, Jamin Hansu is in the trailers and advertising. He's a character who appears in that second movie. I just don't think you need that stuff at all.
I agree. I think Xiamen Hansu is completely wasted in this film, which is disappointing because I do love the guy a lot. But yeah, I mean, the thing is, like, this is a very, very focused movie. Like, we are pretty much just following Lupita Nyong'o the entire movie, and she has a couple people throughout who, kind of follow her as well, which is fun. But I mean, this cast list is tiny. I mean, we're going to talk about Cloverfield in a second, and the cast is pretty small. But I mean, this is on the back of Lupita's shoulders in a sense, and I think she's awesome. I mean, I don't, like again, no spoilers, but I mean, she's going through a lot of stuff. Obviously, if you've seen the movie, and I thought just like her personal struggle and just like her perspective on the apocalypse. It's like I don't even really care that much about the apocalypse. Like I've been living in my own apocalypse for some time now. So I really just like that personal story and kind of her overall arc. But everything else around her I wasn't as big of a fan of. I want to hear your thoughts on Joseph Quinn because I
Hmm.
think he's a good actor, but like his character, I was like, I don't even know why you're here. Like I just didn't think he was necessary for the story almost.
I do agree with that. I think they're both incredible, especially Lupita. I mean, when is
Yeah,
she not great? We've talked about her a few times on this show, never done a
underrated.
movie specifically that she's been in, but like her career over the last couple of years has been a little surprising, a little lax. It's not been what I think people would expect out of, the Academy Award winner of 12 Years a Slave. Like, it's really surprising stuff. Star Wars is then there. Obviously the Black Panther kind of halts things. Us is a highlight for me, but since then, post
Yeah,
pandemic, there hasn't been a lot. You get like the 355. I didn't see that movie, but God, it got bad reviews.
looked bad. Yeah,
I'm loving that, like, this, despite being a franchise movie and despite being branded as this A Quiet Place Day One, it really is like a pretty down to earth story about this character who, like you said, is going through a lot, who has been living in their own apocalypse for quite some time. And it's a story about death and reflecting on your own death, on your own mortality, on the mortality of the people around you. And I think that's a really smart thing to do, to kind of pull things back, to make it a simple story, and to focus it on this one character. I agree, maybe Joseph Quinn doesn't need to be there, but like she's got to have someone to play off of that isn't just the cat, right? Like there's got to be some other story. And I think he works as this, thousands of
freaked
miles
out
away
guy.
from home. He tried to
Well,
he's trying to
that's the thing too that I dislike
discover
is
some
like it's like
something in himself.
we're gonna set a movie in New York City about, the
Give us a
events
Brit.
day one. Yeah. Like why is, the second villain guy a British guy? I want Joseph Quinn, he could have played like, oh, a New York construction worker or a New York cop or a New York, pizza joint. Shout out pizza as well.
I
That's
don't think
really
he's buy. I don't wouldn't buy him as any of those things. And of course, he has played,
what do you
a punk
yeah.
rocker from in the
He's got a good
'80s
American
on
accent.
Stranger Things, but I don't think I see him as a New York construction worker.
Make him a cop or a firefighter. Bulk him up a little bit. I think that would have worked.
You want propaganda in the Quiet Place movie, Cody? Wow, interesting.
Yeah, I guess that's a good point.
He
Just
could be a
come up with
firefighter. I'd like that. I could be
some
into
random
that.
profession. But I think the cast is good. I think the horror is good as well. I mean, I like this franchise a lot. I think maybe this movie and the other movies do it too, of like relying maybe on jump scares a little bit too much. There's one specific one involving the cat with a jump scare where I almost jumped out of the theater. I was so surprised. So I didn't love that one just because it was like unexpected and not really necessary. But I thought the horror was great. I mean, the monster design is so cool, I think. The sound design in these movies is always kind of extraordinarily good. So, I mean, Krasinski obviously still has his hand and everything, but I thought it was really well directed as well, along with kind of a really cool cast.
Yeah. Shout out to Michael Sarnowski, who's obviously the director of Pig. That's where you get the Alex Wolf connection that we were talking about at the end of our
Shout out
last
to Wolfman.
episode.
Yeah.
I think he does the intimate character stuff really well. I'll say, like, this movie, it's like an hour 40, maybe without the credits, it's like an hour 30 something. It's very tight. Like, it is cut to pieces. Like, I could believe that they maybe even shot more or there was more script there, but it feels like it's really slim. And I like that about it. It moves very fast, but to a certain extent, it's like there's a scene where they're in a church and there's just like these other people around and you don't even like see another character interact. Like it feels very closed off to these two people. Like you don't get very many of those moments of, like, in the Cloverfield movie where it's like the average person running by, there's other people experiencing this too. It feels very like a movie set where it's closed off and there's only a couple extras that aren't talking to anybody. You know what I'm saying? It's
Yeah.
very.
It's an interesting angle for a prequel too. Isn't the whole point of a prequel like, oh, you want to do more world building and this is how this happened, this is how that happened. You don't really get a ton of that. Like you said, the Jamin Hansu, I mean, you get a tiny sliver of it. I think he's in this movie, what, like 10
And it
minutes
makes no
tops, and
sense when it
he doesn't
connects
do
back.
anything.
It like
Yeah.
it's geographically, this movie, I have a lot of questions. They start lower Manhattan, they got to head to East Harlem, and then suddenly there's boats again in lower Manhattan. Like they're all over the place in that sense.
Yeah. I think there's definitely issues. I mean, like I said, out of the three Quiet Place movies, this is probably my least favorite, but they're all good movies. I mean, I don't think you could deny that this is a pretty good movie. And you're gonna throw in cats in the apocalypse. I mean, I'm gonna be on board. Like, they should have marketed that.
Schnitzel. Shout out to
I think
Schnitzel, a
more.
great actor. We shouted out on our Happy
True.
Gilmore episode the crocodile actor, Schnitzel the cat. Give that cat an Oscar. Of
Yeah, we support animal actors on this podcast.
course,
We
the
need to bring
dog in
them on.
Anatomy of a Fall as well.
True. I think this is an early front runner for Animal of the Year, Animal Actor of the Year, though. I don't think anything is going to beat this. So shout out to the cats because they're absolutely baller.
This as an NYC movie is okay. I think, like you said, it's a great setting. Being like, hey, what's a loud place? It's literally like the opening text of the movie. NYC
Yeah.
is an average of 90 decibels per hour. So it's smart to be like, let's take the monsters with the hearing deficiencies and put it in this iconic American location. It wasn't shot in New York at all. They shot this entirely in London.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
I think they do some good fakes. There's a lot of like CGI and you know trickery that they're doing here, but I don't necessarily think, as someone who's spent some more time in the city, it's like a great New York City movie.
I'm surprised they didn't go deeper into like some of the New York City lore and stuff, but that's weird too. Why are you going to film in London? That just made me lose respect for this director a lot more. But yeah, as a New York
I
resident,
think
I
it's
feel like, I
Paramount.
mean,
Blame the
you have
studio,
the
man.
yeah, always fun in the studio. But as a New York resident, I think the cool thing about both these movies is these are both like New York City monster movies that we're talking about today. So I feel like your perspective is, I mean, the only one that really matters here because you're the only one who lives in New York. So I'm excited.
Well, Cody, I live in New Jersey. Shocking, shocking thing, turn of events. But
Close
it's
enough.
the
Close enough.
perfect segue because welcome back to Cody and Korbin Have a Podcast, the show where two former roommates talk about Cloverfield. We're discussing the iconic 2008 New York City monster movie, like you said. My name's Korbin Zvokel, and of course, I'm joined by my co-host, Cody Webb. Cody, are you excited to talk monsters, man?
I am. It's spooky season early here in Cap. A little spooky summer, you could say. But I'm excited. I think we just came off a really fun episode as well, going over our ideal summer movie season. And I think you could slot both of these. I had a little horror spot, and I think either one of these movies that we're talking about today would have been a great fit. But yeah, I'm jacked to be here, man. I always enjoy our horror episodes. I feel like we dive into these movies maybe a little bit more than necessary, but it's usually a good time.
And this movie notably a January release, so
Yeah.
shout out to it there.
Shout out to Reeves.
But
Good guy.
why
Out of everybody you could have chose, why did you pick me?
I picked this movie? I mean, I think it was mainly fueled by the release of A Quiet Place Day One, like we said, a New York City monster movie, and I was really thinking like, what is another movie that, like, there's not a lot of New York City monster movies. Obviously, like the American Godzilla kind of brings him to New York City, but there aren't a lot of attack on New York City movies like this. This movie to me is one
King
that,
Kong.
King Kong, shout out to him. I guess one of the most iconic monsters of all time. Good call. But this really stands out, I think, of a piece of a time of which it came out. I recently rewatched it actually a couple months ago. I think I find it extremely watchable. I own a copy of it. So I was like, you know what? Why not? Let's discuss it on the episode today. Getting into Do You Remember? Was this your first watch, or when did you first see this movie?
I mean, I would say this was my first full watch for sure. I mean, with this movie, and I'll talk about it a little bit too, of like, I think the marketing campaign was absolutely insane. I think you said '07, '08 is when this came out, right? Yeah, so you're still pretty youngins. But I do remember like just the trailer footage from this. I think it's one of maybe the most iconic, internet clips of our time at least. So I've seen your background. I've seen the trailer shot of the Statue of Liberty getting its head knocked off, just rolling down the street. But other than that, no, this was definitely my first watch. Kind of fun too. I mean, super early Matt Reeves. And obviously, we've talked about him a few times before. How many times have you seen this, man? Do you remember the first time you watched it?
I do. It wasn't actually that long ago. And I
Okay,
got to shout out our compadre, Jackson Murin, because for the very first time, I watched it with him in his old Indianapolis apartment.
nice.
Me, him, and Abby threw this thing on. Probably talked through a lot of it. We're like, oh well, what are they doing here? But it is just like a fun found footage monster movie that I think is a great time to watch with other people. This was like the third time I'd seen it, and it was I think it's just a really enjoyable watch each time. I watched it with the director commentary this time around, got to hear
Ooh,
Matt Reeves really discuss,
wow.
the intricacies of making it. And I think just made me enjoy it even more, kind of appreciate, how they created something, on a low budget and a low scale with a limited creative, design in the found footage aspect. And that, caused them to create something that was even better than I think, just a regular movie could be.
That is awesome. I mean, I feel like this is a good movie too. It's a good background movie. If you're just hanging out with some people. But I'm really excited to hear your insights on kind of Reeves' perspective because I feel like even I don't know, to me, like I feel like making a movie like this would almost be more interesting than the actual movie, just from the like found footage perspective. So that'll be interesting to hear. But yeah, I think this movie is. I don't know. I have a lot of thoughts on it. I don't know. The found footage stuff always throws me off. I don't know if I'm used to like the genre enough to kind of enjoy it, which sucks.
I think it has its highs and lows for sure. Let's get into our initial thoughts about this movie.
I'm too damn bad if you don't like my initial clinical reaction.
And I wanted to start with a quote from, maybe our our future presidential nominee for the
Uh-oh.
DNC.
You exist in the context of all in which you live and what came before you.
And I want to talk about context because movies exist in the context of which they're released, of which they're made, of what they're discussing. We've talked about it before, like, War Dogs being very much a movie of like the Obama era and, how movies have changed in Trump. You think of like stuff like Vice as a response to 9/11. This movie is very much a response to 9/11. It's taking the ideas of, like terrorism in America, domestic terrorism happening, and supplanting it into a genre film and all those feelings and anxieties and those fears, and taking, an iconic piece of Americana and destroying it, and, putting you on the ground level of these people in the city and the things that they experienced in an attack. And I think that that is interesting and a really powerful setting to have your movie. There's a line in this very early on that's like, they go, what do you think? Do you think it's another terrorist attack? Like that,
Yeah.
right there. It's signified. These people are living in the shadow of 9/11. And this is a movie very much made in the shadow of 9/11. There's a lot of movies that exist that way that are, exist as propaganda, or maybe they exist as like deep dramas about loss and recovery. Or you can have stuff like this that's the genre that's reflecting those feelings. And of course, the original Godzilla movie was about reflections on attacks and nuclear fears and atomic bombs. So it's a thing that has existed for 60, 70 years in cinema. And this is just, an American version of that.
I think it's a really good point. And that was one of the things I want to bring up too, of like it does a really good job of just showing like a realistic depiction of like just a human or a group of humans kind of impact when something massive like this is going down. And of course, I mean, I feel like it would have been disrespectful to do like another like terrorist attack like on New York. So adding the element of it's a supernatural sci-fi monster, I think is a cool way to do it. I think just like following around like specific people who are under attack in a city, like that's a perspective I don't know if I've seen in a movie, which I really really like because it's sort of the thing too. Like this has happened to them recently, so it's like they kind of know what to do, but of course there's that panic and that fear and the anger. But at the same time, you have like a lot of comedy in this movie during like super tense moments. So I think it's cool of like still showing the humanity through while still going through like a super traumatic experience. And I mean, that kind of rolls into what I was saying with like the found footage. Um, I just don't love the style personally in a movie perspective, but I think this story specifically is one that makes sense to kind of do found footage. I'm obviously again that shot of the Statue of Liberty's head rolling down the street from a found footage perspective is pretty awesome. I mean, I don't think anybody can really deny that. But I think it's just hard to do like a character driven, story or movie in this format. And I mean, they try to with like videotaping of, these two
We'll
characters
get
having
into
a
that. Yeah.
relationship. Yeah, starting off. But I just don't think it's really effective at all. But I think like all the horror, all the monster stuff I really, really enjoy. I really think this creature is really cool in its design and everything. And also, I mean, we got to talk about this creative team. Obviously, Matt Reeves directed, which I feel like everybody should know. My boy Matty. But this is written by Drew Goddard, who I really, really love. Shout out Cabin in the Woods. Shout out Daredevil. It's also produced by my boy J.J. Abrams. I mean, I feel like if this was not a found footage movie, this might be like one of my faves because it kind of checks all my boxes. I enjoyed it. There's things that I really don't like with the style and the story, which we'll get into, but I think everything else I really enjoy about this flick.
Well, I think the found footage thing, again, it's like a case of 10 years earlier, you can't really make a movie like that because that would be weird. Like, who has video cameras like that? Like, like this technology that exists for a movie like this to exist. And you have cell phones, but they're not quite up to the quality of, modern cell phones. And
Yeah,
this being in 2008, you get the perfect encapsulation of the video footage making sense and it working in the style. And then, like I said, you have it's reflecting all these anxieties of the times, but it's also at the end of the day a monster movie. Like that is what it becomes, and that's what JJ really wanted to make. He saw like they said like he was on a trip in Japan and he saw like all this Godzilla stuff in a store and he was like, man, we really need that. Like we need our version of that. And of course, like you said, we have King Kong, but there isn't something as visceral as Godzilla in the American film history. So he wanted to create his version of that. And, they tapped Goddard to write it, like you said, and then brought in Reeves to direct. And it's something really fun. The San Jose Mercury News described the creature as a monster for the MySpace generation. Kody, which like you said, it is a little bit before our time, but I think that's a funny reference. Like these characters are a little bit of like mid 2000s post college late 20s caricatures to a certain extent,
which I do like. I mean, TJ Miller I feel like is the most of that character for sure. But I think it's a really good point too. Is I mean, obviously this is kind of a direct response to 9/11, but then it's also sandwiched in between like smartphones and technology becoming
like the real fucking digital age. Like it's happening, but it is not it.
I mean, if you made this movie like 5 years later, I mean, everybody's gonna have their cell phones out at all times. It's gonna be a lot harder, I feel like, to stick to just like the handheld camera. So I think like year-wise,
they turn on cinema mode on their iPhone in the year 2024, and everything's smooth and beautiful. Shot on iPhone.
I think just like the timing of this movie it is definitely perfect, and like year-wise, I don't think I would even consider putting it anywhere else versus where it's at. Just because you're so close to 9/11, but you're also not in the digital age where it kind of just ruined the movie, I feel like.
And the last thing I'll say about this before we jump in, 74 minutes. Like the runtime's a little bit longer that, but when the credits hit, you've been watching the movie for 74 minutes. That is, for a movie like this, found footage, you can't let it drag on for too long. The gimmick does begin to wear off at a certain extent. And you get to the thing of like, this isn't making sense. The camera battery is going to die. Like the storage space is going to run out. Like it's the perfect length. You get plenty of monster scares. And it's so watchable.
Yeah, I agree. I think maybe it's a little bit too long, which we'll get into.
Wow.
I do love short movies. I'm a big short movie guy. So yeah, keep it around the 90 to 80, 70 range, and I'm gonna be on board every time. And I say we roll straight into roll credits.
Say that again?
It's fantastic.
Yes, it is. Guys, I got it.
We spoiled it a little bit, but
that kind of was the first thing I wanted to bring up too. Is like I really enjoyed the opening, and not like the opening scene per se, but just like just it popping up on screen, being like, "Hey, this is government property," like just
the
showing
framing device of the entire movie, essentially, like it's setting up that this was footage found in Central Park on the after the attacks and the LSA attacked. I agree. It's a cool idea to set that up.
Absolutely. And I think that definitely goes into the found footage goodness of it being like, oh, like this was a random civilian in this kind of just mess of a city with this monster going through it. I think it's a really cool concept. And then the government obviously is like, oh, comes around this camera and it's like all these really good shots of the monster. Like, oh shit. But it does spoil the movie, like you said. Obviously the ending is going to be, in Central Park, and it's probably not going to go too well. So I didn't like that aspect of it. But I really love just like the opening. And then after that, obviously we get into like relationship stuff that I don't love. But I want to talk about the billing order.
Oh, me too.
This is Paul Corbin. I'm sure you know this, but do you know who the top billed person is in this movie?
None other than Lizzie Kaplan, the
Like
girl
that's insane.
who gets her head exploded.
Shout out. I really like her as an actress. Obviously, I know her
I don't
best.
know any of these fucking people. I'm gonna be honest. Like I have no connection. Obviously, TJ Miller, which we will
Yeah.
get into in the ugly. But like I really don't know any of these people, and none of them had incredible careers afterwards. But I'll throw it over to you. Where do you know them from?
I mean, not much. I just know Lizzie Kaplan from Mean Girls, basically. I think that's her main credit, of which I am pretty familiar with. But everybody else, I was going to see that too. I just thought it was weird billing as well, because the second build was just the girl who hasn't really gone on
Jessica Lucas.
yet to do anything big. I don't really know her. But like, I feel like the main character in my mind in this movie is Rob. And he's like, I think it's fourth build. So I just don't really understand where they came up with this stuff. Also, TJ Miller, I mean, it's basically behind the camera the entire movie. So I think he could have been higher up. But I just thought it was weird. It had to just be like contract, who got paid the most, I would think. But really strange credits at the end of the movie. I was like, wait, she's top billing? Wait, she's second billing? Just weird, I thought.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely the thing of just like who had been in the most stuff prior. And like you said, Lizzie
Yeah.
Kaplan, she was in Mean Girls. Like it's not a huge role, but she's in the movie. And, we can look and be like, Mike Vogel, he was in Rumor Has It before Cloverfield. Michael David Stahl, who plays Rob, was in fucking nothing
I feel like
before.
I recognize him, but I don't know where it's from. I was trying to find out.
Cloverfield was like his first movie, really.
Yeah,
And
but I like that too. For a found footage movie where you're trying to make it ultra realistic, cast unknowns. Like I think that's definitely the good strategy to kind of go. But maybe he's just got like a recognizable face. But I swear I know that guy from somewhere.
Jessica Lucas was in The Covenant in 2006, so that was that's her number one on IMDb. She also went on to be in the 2013 Evil Dead remake,
Okay.
The Fede Alvarez one. But Michael Stahl David, I mean, his 4 on IMDb are Person of Interest for 2 episodes.
Nice.
We Win, which he directed, which is a short film. In Your Eyes, I don't know what that is. It's not in a lot.
Jessica Lucas, she's in She's the Man too. That's what I knew her from. I like that movie.
9 episodes of Narcos. Oh, Cody, 1 episode of New Girl.
Yep, that's what it is. I could not think he definitely dates Jess.
He plays Ian. It's in season 4, episode 7, The Gold Mine. Nick pretends to be gay to make his status as Jess's ex less of an issue.
No, I know it is. So Jess, she just calls Nick and she's like, Nick, you got to pretend to be gay. And then she brings that guy home, and that's the episode
from Cloverfield. Yeah. Yes, I do remember.
I knew it. I knew him.
And Schmidt does a great job of not being in on the bit, but also pretending to be homosexual with Nick, because bro love is fantastic in that place.
Well, shout out New Girl. Go check out our episode on that.
Hey,
but thank you.
We should have done that as one of the 5 for First Friday 5. that specific episode, we missed out. Michael Stahl David, Cloverfield King, and New Girl King. Of course, we talked about it. J.J. Abrams is the producer of this. He's really the whole conceptualizer, the idea of it. He brings in Drew Goddard to write the script. We actually mentioned last week on the episode as well, because he wrote the Martian script and is writing the script to Project Hail Mary coming up. And then Matt Reeves, our boy, our Planet of the Apes man, is the director of this film. Did you know that going in?
I did, yeah. So I knew that this was like his first kind of big film, I feel like. I think he did something else smaller that I never saw. But I mean, we've covered a good amount of Reeves on this podcast. I think he joins the 3 group. So of course we did the Batman, and then we kind of did Dawn, in our middle episode. And now we've done this. So I think it's deserved. I think Reeves is a really, really fun and kind of exciting director. But it's cool to kind of see where he started. It's definitely not where I would have predicted.
And him and JJ, old childhood friends. They used to make super great films together. So
they need to keep working together, honestly, because I think JJ, behind the camera alone is not always ideal. So team up with Matt more. Do a little co-directing, co-producing. I think they're a good team.
Yeah, I mean, they worked, I think, like on that show Felicity together. Of course, that's, one of the big things that JJ did first, kind of starting out. And then JJ just directed some fucking terrible Star Wars movies and should never.
Like not The Force Awakens. What are you talking
again.
about?
Cloverfield is not said in this movie.
Yeah.
The words Cloverfield. Do you know where the title comes from, though?
I don't. That was my other thing I want to talk about is obviously no roll credits moments. What's up with this Cloverfield stuff? I don't even know what it is.
Clover is just the name of the monster that JJ came up with, and he hired, let me get this guy's name, Neville Page. So he had this idea for the monster. He hires Neville Page to actually design the creature, and it's called Clover, and that's where Cloverfield comes from. The marketing for this movie is pretty insane, and everything that happened with it, like you mentioned, the first trailer, which did not even have a title attached to it, played before Transformers. So opening night, everybody's sitting down to see fucking Michael Bay's Transformers film, Shia LaBeouf and Megan Fox in the big screen, and this weird found footage trailer of all these people at a party starts playing, and then
It's for Rob. Say something to him before he leaves.
Rob's awesome. I'm gonna miss it. Rob, have fun in Japan.
You owe me $11.
How are you gonna survive without Rob? He's your main dude.
Yeah, no. Hey, how am I gonna survive without you?
I don't know. I'm your main dude.
What was that noise?
It sounded like an animal.
Yeah, just relax. Everything.
Phone calls are pouring into the New York One newsroom as a thunderous, roaring sound.
Can you see something from the roof?
What animal sounds like that?
Shaking everywhere, man. It's like tremors.
Looks like you should have left town a little bit earlier.
It's gonna be the best night ever.
and then just a date appears, not even any indication of what the movie is, a date and a website. So then you could go to the website, and it's a picture of Jessica Lucas and Lizzie Kaplan just staring at something, and if you stayed on the website for a certain period of time, 6 minutes, it would start to growl at you, all this crazy,
that's awesome,
hidden Easter egg shit. And they released some prequel mangas, and there was other websites and other there was a link to a video of an oil tanker that got capsized off the coast, all this really in-depth lore that they're trying to build around the Cloverfield monster in the universe, which I think is really cool, and it got people to go see the movie. But then really you don't even need to know anything about any of that to enjoy this movie. I don't think it adds or subtracts either way.
No, I agree with that, but I do think it's really, really cool marketing and not something that we see a ton of today. Of course, I mean, that leans into everything's a franchise regardless. Even this became a franchise. So I think it would be interesting to see more original stuff, try and do. I mean, I think of that as viral marketing almost. It's you're trying to get as many clicks and as many kind of eyes and opportunities as you can on that.
MySpace viral marketing.
Yeah, MySpace again, chat. But when it's something that riveting and kind of that shocking of the Statue of Liberty's head rolling down a New York street, I think that's going to get butts in seats pretty much automatically. So I think that visual's dope. I think that's definitely the reason this movie got made, probably, is that was the pitch to the studio, 100%. But I mean, that shot's iconic, and I could watch that scene pretty much all day because it's pretty awesome.
Obviously, the Planet of the Apes movie, the original, has a iconic Statue of Liberty shot. So I think it's very poetic that Matt Reeves then got to go direct some Planet of the Apes movies right after this. They were like, shit, this guy knows how to handle a Statue of Liberty reveal. So
do you think that's an homage, or?
Everything is an homage, Cody. Why not? The Cloverfield movie spurned a franchise as well. 10 Cloverfield Lane and the Cloverfield Paradox. Have you seen either of those?
I've not, but I heard Paradox is very, very bad.
Yeah, I've seen 10 Cloverfield Lane, Mary Elizabeth Winstead, John Goodman. I think it's actually a really fun movie. It's totally different. It's kind of more of like this idea of an anthology. You don't really know if the things that are happening are real or not. John Goodman plays a very menacing character in the movie. And I would recommend that. I have not seen Paradox, but it also tried to capture a little bit of viral marketing of its own. Do you remember how the release strategy of this movie went?
I believe so. So I don't know. I don't know when it was specifically, but it feels like it was around like the Super Bowl.
I think it was like 2018.
It's like a big
it was the
sporting
Super
moment.
Bowl.
Yeah, and I mean, just came out of nowhere. Just dropped it, just like a random kind of horror trailer in space, I think. And then at the end, it's like, oh, the Cloverfield paradox, and everyone's like, oh my gosh, like that's gonna be awesome. But good marketing again. I think that obviously runs, through this franchise. But I don't think anybody really saw the paradox, so kind of a bummer on that side of things.
They dropped the trailer during the Super Bowl and said, "Hey, by the way, it's up now on Netflix.
Oh yeah,
Like you can
that's
go
cool
watch it
though.
when the Super Bowl's over." And then people didn't really watch it, and the people that did watch it thought it was bad. Like it's,
I mean,
I think it does bring back more connective tissue to this movie, I will say. But it again is not like a direct sequel. It was they had a spec script for another movie that JJ wanted to produce that was like a space film, and then they're like, let's make this into a Cloverfield thing, which is actually what almost happened with the original Quiet Place as well. They had this spec script of like, this is a monster I want to make. They're like, oh, we should make this into a Quiet Place movie, or we should make this into a Cloverfield movie. Luckily, that didn't happen. John Krasinski came in and said, family first.
Thank goodness for that. But that is the thing too about the dropping that immediately. I feel like it's a massive red flag. Like that's a studio saying like we have no confidence in this. We're gonna try something crazy just to get some extra clicks on it. But if it was just like a trailer and it's like, oh, it drops in like 2 or 3 months, I feel like that would have been a ton more effective. And obviously it was a streaming thing too. So cool marketing, but I think the studio just had no faith in it at all.
There's word that they'll be doing a more direct sequel to this film at some point, but who knows? We'll see down the line.
I don't know if I would want to see that really. I don't know. Are they going to keep it in the found footage perspective? I would think not.
An early pitch from Reeves was like, hey, you go to the Brooklyn Bridge and you see other people recording these moments. There's other films that are happening during the same night, was kind of the original. I don't necessarily know if I want to see that happen either.
Just make a normal movie. Why don't we just do that? But I mean, I wouldn't hate it. I don't know really where you would go because I feel like this is such a good, just simple premise of a monster attacking New York City,
and it works because you don't know like why the monster's there or what
its
purpose is. It's destruction and it's terror.
I agree. I mean, I'd probably watch it, but I don't think it's necessary for a sequel.
No, probably not. But hey, that's Hollywood, baby.
If Reeves comes back, I'm on board.
Yeah.
And JJ.
He's got the Batman too. He needs to focus on that. The good, the bad, the ugly, Cody. Kind of already dipped into a little bit of it, but I'll start with just the monster stuff. Like, obviously, limited budget. I think this movie is made for about $25 million. But I think the VFX do look pretty solid. The monster is very menacing. It's a cool monster design. The parasites on top of the monster that we see later are even scarier and even creepier. And then the most impressive thing is that because this is found footage, like that makes the VFX that much harder. Like when you're trying to do all these like 3D mapping and understanding an environment and placing something into real footage, it becomes all the more difficult when it is not definite or steady recorded footage. It's shaky, it's chopped to pieces, and it's very impressive the work they did.
Yeah, I agree completely. I think the VFX from this kind of found footage perspective is really, really good. I mean, obviously the big thing is too, they're not going to show you the monster immediately at the beginning of the movie. So definitely hide him throughout and you get like little glimpses here and there.
It's the Jaws thing a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. Which I think is a smart thing to do. You don't want to, show him in the first scene. Also, I mean, how did he take off the head of the Statue of Liberty and throw it like that? I don't know, but I'd like to see it. But yeah, all the little creatures too, like just like the kind of mixing with like the found footage camera angles. Like I don't think there's any sort of noticeable CGI where I was like, that looks really bad. I'll go into later too. I like some of the practical effects of like some of the people who got bitten and stuff. But I think visually this movie is definitely on point. I feel like 25 million budget wise is kind of a lot for a movie like this.
Well, the thing is, like, it's a studio film. It's a Paramount movie. Like, it was made by a studio for sure, but like, no big name actors. Reeves
Right, because
constantly
it's
was
found
talking
footage.
about like we thought we were gonna have to cut this from the script because we didn't think we had enough money, but then we figured out this way to do it, or like they gave
That's
us
cool.
extra money in the budget, or like one extra night, or like this moment wasn't gonna happen because the sketch like that limiting factor made them be more creative and come up with ways to make it work, whether it be like having to do a lot of improvisation and have the characters be super together. And they took all of like the real accidents, like when they would film stuff and someone would fall down, they were like, that has to stay in. If somebody falls for real, that has to make the final cut of the movie because it makes it more real, it makes it more raw. If something goes out of focus, like we're gonna use autofocus intentionally sometimes because we want that, those moments of out of focusness. And I think all of that just adds to the movie. I know you're hating on the found footage, but I think it all works.
No, I like the realism parts of it for sure. I think that's its strongest suit is, giving us a realistic version of what, New Yorkers would be going
it's realism. That's the 100% realism. And you know what movie Goddard told Matt Reeves to watch? The essence he felt should be captured was
I have no idea.
Alfonso Cuarón's Children of Men, Kody. There's this gritty realism to the way that movie's shot. Obviously, there's handheld, but it's like steady cam footage through a lot of that movie and a lot of long one-er takes. This is taking, the shaky cam version of that, but like a lot of cool direct inspiration there for sure.
Yeah, I can see that a lot. The camera work in Children of Men is unmatched, I would say personally. That car scene in the woods is absolutely insane. But I agree with everything you're saying. I really like the kind of production design and ambiance of just like the New York streets too, especially after the head gets thrown, where it's kind of just like a pile of dust. And it's really cool too how like I like the character design of the monster, obviously. In my head, like for some reason, the first thing that I think of when he's like rumbling around the city and knocking everything out is like the superhero genre. Like this reminds me of Man of Steel, of like what would actually happen if like something of this magnitude or just something of this power really did have like a massive fight or just a massive thing in a city of this scale.
The only good moment in Batman versus Superman, Kody.
True.
When you get to see what it would be like.
Shout out Granny's peach tea. But and I think it's really cool too to just go from like one human's perspective of this massive kind of thing going on. But I think it's cool. I don't know if Reeves talked a ton about the monster and his motives, but I did a little bit of research and it seems like the conclusion that most people have come to is like this monster is just a little kid like looking for its mom. Like it's mostly harmless. Obviously, it's this massive creature, eating people and putting out these little things that eats people. So not great. But I think that's a cool perspective as well. Of like we don't even understand why this is happening or what's really doing it, but it's scary regardless. So I like the setup as a whole, really, really, really a lot.
Yeah, I like that. He doesn't really get too much into that because I think it is like, what do you want to glean from
subjective.
It? But
yeah,
that idea of the monster is probably just as scared as the people who are experiencing the terror as well.
Yeah,
is really interesting for sure.
I got one thing, and it's mostly revolved around TJ Miller, surprisingly. I know he's coming up when you're ugly for some very bad stuff that he's done.
Yeah.
I think he's pretty good in this. And I think it is just because he's the guy behind the camera. I think that's where he excels, is kind of just like snarky comments every now and again. Also, it just takes his face away because he's so punchable. I just don't like looking at him. So I think taking that out and just having him be like a snarky, funny guy behind the camera the entire movie is a really good move. A couple of his lines that I really love. The first one where, I mean, it's probably like halfway through the movie, but it's like, I can't take all this running, man. I just really love like the realism of that too. Of like these people are not in good shape. Like they're sprinting around the city for hours trying to avoid this monster. They're all going to be dead tired. And I feel like half the movie is him being like, Rob, hold up, Rob, you're too fast. So I love that stuff. And then my favorite scene with him too is like when they're in the tunnel and they're kind of having fun, like they're cracking jokes and stuff with Lizzie Kaplan. So I thought like the humor in the small parts that it is in this movie was really effective, and I really did enjoy that.
Yeah, I'm really not a huge fan of like TJ Miller even in like the Deadpool movies. And
I'm
like
not
I think
either.
he does work in this. Like
Yeah.
he is surprisingly effective. Like you said, you don't have to see his face, he's behind the camera. Reeves mentioned that like they recorded all the dialogue when they were filming, but because TJ Miller was behind the camera, like that gave them the opportunity where he just kind of came in afterwards and could do a little bit more ad-libbing and like make
That's
jokes and
awesome.
like kind of just
Yeah.
play off what the other people's did in their actual performance. But then there was moments where like they actually had him holding the camera and they had the actors holding the camera. They really did try and get them all involved and, you know, use them. They shot all the like the VFX shots, the heavy stuff that needed to have VFX worked using this camera called the Viper. It's the same camera that it's a digital camera that David Fincher used to shoot Zodiac. Obviously, like that movie looks beautiful, looks like it's shot on film. Isn't Fincher huge proponent of digital photography? He like sat down with Reeves and like explained to them like how to use this camera, best practices, you know, shoot it, light it, which I just think is like a really cool anecdote of like filmmakers helping each other out. And they used that for all the VFX shots, and like a simpler like F-23, which for more of the, like the handheld, just, you know, really run and gun style. But I think it's all super great.
That's cool. Shout out to Finchman for giving some tips. But yeah, I think visually this movie does look pretty beautiful. So they took a lot of good tips from him, I think.
And the cool thing is to figure out how to make the VFX work. That trailer, that initial teaser trailer that we've talked about, that's what they shot first. They shot that before they shot any of the movie, before the script was
Makes
even
sense.
really done.
Yeah.
And then they effectively do take moments from that trailer and edit them into the movie. But a lot of it, like the party was entirely reshot when they did the movie. But there's like a couple shots of like them dancing or like character moments that they spliced into the movie to make you be like, oh yeah, I did see that in the trailer. But effectively, most of it's reshot. The Statue of Liberty shot was redone VFX wise, but all of it was like proof of concept. Can we do this handheld stuff and make the monster and the explosions look good? And, you know, it's a good test and got people out to see it.
I mean, yeah, that's the money shot. That doesn't surprise me at all that was the first thing filmed, because that was probably the first thing sent back to the studio. But yeah, I do like that too. I mean, with trailers, even when we were talking about A Quiet Place part day one, excuse me, I saw the trailer pretty recently because they showed it at like every single movie playing. But there were parts in there that were like slightly changed, specifically stuff with like Alex Wolff's character. If you've seen the movie, but I do like that. I don't think everything in a trailer even needs to go in the movie. It's just something that kind of wants you to go see the movie. So I do like that. I mean, the party stuff isn't as important, and I'm sure it was just not very good acting in the original trailer. But that is cool that they still kind of changed stuff as they went along.
Yeah, they were able to figure it out, find the story from there. I don't think A Quiet Place is a great New York City movie. I think this one is. And the impressive thing here is, Cody, they did only shoot in New York for 1 week, but they got that 1 week. And the 1 week really works. When you have the Brooklyn Bridge scene in the movie, it starts with them really walking onto the Brooklyn Bridge, filming it at night, and then it's able to transition into like a green screen set for all the big heavy VFX shot where it gets destroyed. But I really believe that initial shot of seeing it on location, getting the real nighttime photography is what sells it. And it's the same thing where it's like when they leave the apartment, you know, the apartment obviously isn't in New York City, but when they leave, they're going to use a real New York street one night just to get that feeling, and they can mix and match these things. And I think even if it's only for 1 week, if you're filming, it's so integral to just be able to get those shots that they can intersperse to sell it and connect everything together.
I mean, I agree. I feel like for New York City set movies, you should film more in New York than other places. But I get it. You're making a movie.
I mean, it's obviously like you can't just shoot the whole fucking movie in New York. Like that would be impossible. And they use the Paramount backlots. They use some Warner Brother backlots.
I mean, just go to New York. But yeah, I do like that. And hey, it was more minutes shot than in A Quiet Place Day One. So I think it's got that over it for sure.
The subway scene, a loading dock in Los Angeles, you know, so.
I mean, that makes sense.
You know, they just dressed it up. They made it look good.
You can shoot that pretty much anywhere, I feel like, and probably won't notice.
He did talk about the final like climax of the helicopter scene, the big takeoff that they had shot. The location is a very specific location in New York. They had scouted it out, they planned it. This is where it's going to be. And they filmed, basically they were filming the real plates of that area, but then they filmed the actors on a green screen. But obviously it was all very choreographed for that location. They filmed the actors first. Then there was like some sort of like accident that happened in the city to where they were like, oh, we're not going to let you film there anymore. So then they were like, fuck, like, what are we going to do? Like, we filmed our entire climax for this location. They're telling us we're not going to get it. And then literally on the last day, they were like, okay, you guys, you get one night to come in here and film. Wow. And like, this is your chance. He said they filmed it. As soon as they wrapped, it started storming. And they're like, the movie would not have been able to finish if we did not get this shot. So serendipity of movie making, man. It happens.
Yeah. That was pretty sweet. You only need that 10-minute window, but yeah, unpredictable stuff. That was really cool though. Just how close it was to not getting finished. Because I feel like that probably does happen pretty commonly.
I think the ending of this movie works. I really do. I like it a lot. The ends with them in Central Park, kind of an explosion, happens, and then you get the cross cut to the final shot of them, that you've been building to, waiting to see them in Coney Island. They're riding the Ferris wheel. You look out over the water. And I think there's even like maybe a little bit of like you see an alien or something, or some visual there at the end of the movie, which I like. Another filmmaking legend, Steven Spielberg, came in and added some advice to the end of this film, Kody. Oh, wow. JJ screened it for him, and he was like, you should add like a countdown to an explosion at the end, like a 5, 4, something like that. And they're like, yeah, I like building the anticipation. I like that. So then they brought in those heavy like sirens to let, basically know you're in the bomb area. And then all the sounds of the monster kind of like dying and growling. So that was a Spielberg note that makes it in the movie. But I think that stuff really works. Despite jumping over into the bad, I think the flashbacks mainly not working throughout the run of the movie. I think they don't work to me because I don't think they make any sense, like technology wise. Like if you're filming over it, it wouldn't really be cross-cutting between it. Also, this isn't being filmed on tape. Like this is digital photography happening. And I think it's just a stupid conceit. Are you a fan of the flashbacks?
I think very clearly, I agree with you here. That is definitely my least favorite thing, and really the thing that pulls me out of the movie. I think the last shot of them at Coney Island, I think that makes sense. Like that was built up and kind of expected. And that is a cool thing. I was looking at that as well, where I believe that is the creature just going into the ocean and falling from kind of space. So I really like that little kind of small detail. But yeah, this is for me
pretty fucking lucky that they captured that on film. But
pretty big coincidence, I would say, to say the least. But I mean, like I said, my initial thoughts, I just like they're trying to build up these characters through kind of like the first 10 minutes or however long it is.
You gotta believe that this man would travel 4.5 miles from the southern tip of from like before the streets are even numbered to get to 59th Street, like blocks and fucking blocks in hell, in the apocalypse, to see this woman he doesn't even know if she's really alive, like is stuck and dying. And you have to believe that. And that's why they do the flashbacks. But
yeah, well, the tilted building as well, I probably wouldn't go in there personally. But hey man, true love's always going to prevail. Because like we were saying, this is the first time I watched this movie. So it's a bit confusing in the beginning, because like it's obviously like, oh, the footage of these two together, and then we go to this party, and then it ends up that they've only been broken up for like a week, but then she also brought like a date to his going away party, which I thought was really, really strange. And just like everything with their relationship, I just didn't care really, which I feel like that's the main thing you really need to do, is just be like, okay, I get they have a connection. I get why he's going to, do these crazy feats to try to save her. I just didn't really get that. So I thought that's why it was kind of just like, it took me out of the movie and was definitely my least favorite part.
Yeah, the conceit is that they were like longtime friends.
Right.
They finally hooked up.
And like a week ago. How long did they hook up for? Like
this is set in the end of June, and the flashbacks are at the end of May. So it's like a month. And he has not spoken to her since then, though, is the whole thing.
Right.
He doesn't call her back for whatever reason. So then she's obviously going to be like, well, fuck this dude. And she brings her new boyfriend to this going away party, and he's just moving to Japan. That's the other thing. It's like he sleeps with her and then is moving to Japan, and
Right. And that's the reasoning he kind of stops talking to her. He's like, oh, we're gonna have to break out because I'm moving
it's
away.
fucking dumb. Just call her back, bro.
Or just don't hook up with her a month before you're going to Japan. It's pretty easy, I think. But yeah, I think
And
that
not
was,
only like it's not even like they hook up. He hooks up with her, and then they have like a beautiful date where they spend the day and they go to Coney Island and they hang out and like.
and he's recording her the entire time.
Yeah,
for,
right.
For
yeah,
reasons.
doing a weird recording thing, and then
Like why is he recording just like his everyday boring life so much? Like
he's a vlogger.
That's the thing too, where like found footage wise, like I get it, like the monster bit, but all the crap in the beginning, it's like you're not going to be filming this. Even the crap at the end after TJ Miller bites it.
But I mean, if the monster attack starts and you've already started filming it, like at this point, you probably should document. Like I would do that. I would keep filming.
Once TJ Miller gets eaten, I'm chucking that camera in the ocean. I don't even care anymore.
I do agree. The fact that they pick it up after TJ Miller gets gnawed on, fucking snacked on in Central Park, that's probably when things should stop being filmed.
Yeah, 100%.
You notice the Sephora product placement in this movie, Cody?
I don't think I did. Where's it at?
So it's right after the Brooklyn Bridge is destroyed and they're running back into the city. They like stop for a moment and they just like stop in front of a Sephora storefront. And it's like super brightly lit. The rest of the street is dark and it's just like Sephora right behind him. And then they like look across the street and it's before they go into the electronics store, and there's like the shot of TJ Miller like filming the news footage and all that. It's right before that. It's also done because that specific scene was filmed on the streets of like downtown LA, so it doesn't even look super New Yorky. It was an abandoned storefront that they just dressed up as a Sephora because that's like Sephora gave them stuff to dress it up. And Reeves said that like all the townspeople were like, fuck yeah, like this place is really turning around. They've added a Sephora. Like we're going to like downtown LA, like this place is made it. And then he's like, I didn't want to break it to him that it was just like that for one night to film this scene, but really bad product placement for me.
It's tough too. It's double too. They got tricked by product
tricked
placement.
the locals, which is never good. You should be nice to the environment in which you're filming. And also they took some, makeup money.
Shout out Sephora. Yeah, product placement. I'm never a big fan. Is that your only little nitpick? There's got to be something else.
How do they survive that fucking helicopter crash, Cody? That also doesn't really make sense.
Well, they're like bracing their hands on the top.
Yeah, but all the military people die.
Right, and then he gets like his leg stuck. But it seems like Beth and TJ Miller are completely fine. So I don't really know how. That was another thing too, actually. I don't really love the jump scare of that kind of helicopter bite. Why did the monster come after them?
I mean, it's the classic thing. You think you've made it out, and then you get pulled right. Like it happens in all these movies. But I agree. It feels a little forced. They've got to find a way to get their plane downed. But
that's like the biggest jump scare, I think, in this movie too. I mean, I was talking about that with The Quiet Place as well, but I really don't think they rely on that too much in this. I mean, you definitely have like the crazy moments of like, oh my goodness,
well, there's the rats in the subway, Cody, which
that's not a jump scare though. I really like when they go like, oh, what is it, heat ray or whatever, the night vision, that's what it's called.
Yeah.
They go night vision and you see these little things just crawling on the ceiling.
Yeah.
I think that's creepy. I don't think that's like massive jump scare. Like at the end where they bomb him and there's smoke and they're like, oh, you got him. And then it's all just like right at the screen. Like, I feel like that's the most egregious one where I was like, he could have just like, threw up, lightning or something and it hit him. I feel like him jumping directly at this random helicopter is kind of just a weird move.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think there's like one final parasite that jumps at him when they're leaving her apartment at the end of the movie, which I think they said was like a reshoot. They were like, we need to get one more parasite in the movie.
And he stabs him with an axe. Yeah.
Fucking beats the shit out of him. The VFX on that shot, you can tell it's a little rushed. It's not as good. Yeah. I mean, the axe has to like leave his hand and then like float in the air and it's like,
that is true. He's still alive with the accident, which makes it look weird. Do you have anything else? That was pretty much all mine. There's like just super specifics.
This movie, like I said, like I think it is extremely watchable. I think there's like some conceits that feel stupid and like none of the performances are top notch. They're all serviceable. Like they all they seem real. They feel naturalistic, but there's not a lot of just like bad with this movie.
I agree. It's just like very specific things I dislike a lot, but like overall, I think this is definitely a solid flick.
The ugly Kody. Let's talk TJ Miller. Obviously, if you don't know, like he's been canceled because he sexually assaulted a person in college and has been accused of that, which is obviously fucked up. Going beyond that, he also called in a bomb threat at an Amtrak one time,
Okay,
which
I
is
didn't
just
know
like a
that.
crazy thing to do. Like I don't
What?
even I think he was like really drunk or drugged up, they said, but
Yeah.
clearly has had some very questionable, things in his past. And also was a big Ryan Reynolds hater too. Like he's like, I won't even be in the next Deadpool movie because Ryan Reynolds is like the biggest asshole in the world, which I just think is funny because it's like, I'm not a huge Ryan Reynolds guy, but coming from you, I don't know if you're the one to be calling him out.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like Ryan Reynolds is a bad guy to like go after in Hollywood as well. Just because he's pretty likable. And I mean,
He's a little untouchable, yeah.
he did a couple Deadpool movies with him. Like, come on, the guy gave you a job, which nobody else will pretty much do these days. So he's kind of just biting the hand that feeds him as well, which is tough. But yeah, definitely, I'm not a TJ Miller fan at all. I wouldn't say, but this is probably my favorite movie with him in it, or at least his role in it. I guess is the better way to say it. But yeah, we don't like or condone TJ Miller's behavior here, and yeah, definitely deserves to be in the ugly category for sure.
And it is the one thing where it's like he is a stand-up comedian. So like in the entertainment industry, that is like the one place where like he still is surviving. Like he's still doing stand-up. There's Louis C.K. He's still out there fucking doing stand-up despite flashing his junk to women. Like it is a weird thing where you're a little bit untouchable in that space, which kind of sucks.
Yeah. We should find out where his next show is and just go heckle him about this movie. I think that'd be fun. My big ugly that I wanted to talk about, and that was my main one as well. But the other one where we talked about already with Lizzie Kaplan, I think just like the grossest shot of the movie is her like head getting popped off.
Well, in silhouette, kind of.
And I'll tell you what, this is a very bloody movie for like PG-13. Maybe the bloodiest one that I've seen in a while. But yeah, I just thought like the way that she went out was a little bit anticlimactic and maybe didn't look the best. Obviously, they hid that with like a shadow thing, so you didn't see it directly, which I think was smart. But I think out of all the CG, that was the one where I was like, I didn't really love that shot or kind of what it did for the story either. So
yeah, I mean, I like that. Like, I don't like it, but like people are expendable in this. Obviously, his brother dies on the Brooklyn Bridge. Lizzie dies there in that scene, and then T.J. Miller gets snacked on, as we've said. So I enjoyed those like the people kind of it's episodic. They die a little bit as you move throughout as you try and travel. Not everybody's gonna make it.
I mean, they literally all die pretty much.
I don't know. I think it's a sick death. I think it is ugly. I'll agree with you there, but I think it's a sick.
Yeah.
I think it's a sick death.
I really like TJ Miller's death as well. Like that POV shot of the monster. Super awesome.
If that doesn't look good, the movie doesn't work, but it looks incredible.
Yeah. And also the practical effects of Lizzie Kaplan's like the bite on her. I thought that looked phenomenal. I thought like all the practical stuff with like blood and getting bitten was pretty top notch. So effects wise, I mean, this movie is pretty far up there, I think, for me.
Well, I think that's a great segue to take a quick commercial break, and we'll be right back.
Thanks for listening to the episode. You can follow the rest of our happenings over here at Kody and Korbin Have a Podcast on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at KHAP Podcasts, KHAPODCAST. Please follow us on Spotify, give us a rating, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and follow along for more.
And we're back with Welcome to the Academy.
I'm going for the Oscar this year.
Kody, is this getting a best makeup and hairstyling Oscar? What are we giving it?
I mean, you kind of took it out of my mouth, but I do want to give it a best makeup award, or at least a nomination. I think is deserved. I mean, specifically for that Lizzie Kaplan scene I was talking about. But I think, I mean, even I kind of meant it like visual and practical effects. Like, I think the visual effects are really, really good for the time. But then the practical stuff, like I said, the bites and kind of everything to do with the little creatures, I thought was really done well. Maybe other than that axe shot we were talking about. I think a nomination, like I said, I mean, not a massive budget, still a decent little budget for a movie like this. But I think they used kind of all the money they had very, very well. So that was my first award I wanted to give it. Shout out.
Yeah, I mean, this movie obviously was released in January, so like it wasn't really competing for
This is
any
this is
actual
not
Oscars.
a January quality movie either. Like
No.
it's so much higher
I
quality
mean,
than
hey,
a January
it
movie.
is in the sense of like it's a fun genre flick. Like you'll see movies get released like this in January. It's like it's not an awards player, but people are gonna go see it. It made almost $200 million. It was a success. It makes sense to kind of put it out now, but it should have been nominated for visual effects, in my opinion. Here are the three movies: The Curious Case of Benjamin Button, The Dark Knight, and Iron Man. Yes, those three are all good, but you could put Cloverfield in as a nomination too. Like,
yeah, I mean, 3 movies is tough to sneak in. Those are 3 good movies for that category. But yeah, I agree with you. Then if there were 2 more spots up for grabs, you might as well just throw Cloverfield a bone and get in there. But
and then makeup's the same. It's Benjamin Button in Dark Knight, and then Hellboy 2. If Hellboy 2 is getting a makeup nomination.
I actually like the makeup in Hellboy too. What's Doug Jones? Shout out Doug Jones. That guy's awesome. He'll go into any makeup you want him to do. But yeah, I mean, again, January release. Like, what do you think the percentage of movies in January release have been nominated for an Oscar? It's got to be like 0.0000.
Best Picture winner Coda, but that's all I got. And that was just at Sundance. It actually wasn't released in January. I think it came out in like March or June.
Well, unless there's a pandemic, I think the percentages is very, very small. But what's an award you want to give this movie, Corbin?
Best movie with no score. Now, there's probably others, but I think it is notable that this movie is not scored. It is entirely found footage. There's no additional music. There's some diegetic sound. Of course, you have the party where there's music playing, but there's no monster theme for the monster, which I think is cool. Except there is, because over the final credits, if you stay to the credits, you can hear a Michael Giacchino produced track that he wrote especially for the Cloverfield monster, kind of as an homage to the original Godzilla theme. So
I love that. I'm a big Giacchino guy, so I'll have to.
But no score in the actual movie.
Listen to that, yeah. And I mean, obviously the found footage has a lot to do with that. Does like Chronicle or Blair Witch have a score? I don't know. I think Chronicle does for some reason.
I think Chronicle does, but I don't know about Blair Witch.
That is interesting though. I didn't even notice that kind of watching this movie either. Which I think just adds to the realism maybe a little bit. But I do like that. I would definitely put it up there for. I can't think of a better movie with no score. So I like that a lot. And my other award I wanted to give this a bit of a negative award, but I think it's my least favorite Matt Reeves movie that I've seen.
Well,
which is not even a bad thing, because I mean the Batman. I did rewatch the Batman actually a little bit ago, and I didn't like it as much on a second watch. I think it's hovering around the same area as this movie. But both Apes movies, I mean, Dawn is unbelievable, and then Moore's a completely different movie, but also very, very good. But I think out of the 4 I've seen, this would be my least favorite. So sorry, Maddie, but this one's going down at the bottom.
Yeah, I think I would agree with that too. I mean, the Apes movies are
so good,
are pretty great, and obviously the Batman. We've raved about it on that episode. A little long, but solid movie.
I don't like the villain, but pretty good. Shout out Barry Keoghan. He's going to be even worse in the sequel. So.
He's sort of a bad person. The Joker. That's my one accent that
Your
I can't
impressions
do.
are getting better.
I've been doing bad impressions for years. It's time to break out the one I can do. Barry Keoghan. He's sort of a bad person. I guess I could be Saoirse too. Saoirse Ronan.
You do kind of sound like Saoirse there too. Shout out to the Irish.
We love them. It's in my blood. It's natural to me. 23andMe. I did it. Actually, I was an Ancestry guy. The scene where they go to the subways, I mentioned it, the rats, Cody.
Mm-hmm.
They're the best rats in the business. And I'm going to give them that award just because that's what Matt Reeves said. They're the best rats in the business. They're the rats that they used in the movie Pirates of the Caribbean.
Ooh, okay.
So there you go. They're well trained. Matt Reeves is like, I don't know if this is going to work. Are they going to go the way we need them to go? But they fucking did. They went where they needed to go.
Hey, shout out to them. When they're doing a live action Ratatouille, we know who to call. But they were pretty good rats. I mean, I thought probably there was a little bit of CGI in there, but if it was all practical, I mean, that is super, super impressive.
Real pirate rats.
Yeah. Shout out to the Pirates movies as well. Good, always good practical and visual effects in those too. But yeah, shout out to the rats. I'm on board.
Invite, fight, night, Cody.
You gotta be my podcast.
You want to fight, dickless?
Wow, thanks. My knight in shining armor.
who do you want to invite on the pod?
It's my invite. It's a really fun one. I want the Cloverfield monster to come onto our podcast.
Mr. Clover.
What is your story,
miss
Mr. Clover? Yeah, well, we don't even know, actually. It's a good point. Whatever you want
That's
to be.
why we got to get him on the pod.
I want to hear a story. Where were they looking for their mom? What are they doing in the city? Where did they come from? I want the exposition dump.
Where do they
And
go?
I think it's fine that we don't get it in this movie, but I think a podcast form would be really good for it. We learn about their upbringing, we learn about their past, we learn about their future. Just kind of who the Cloverfield monster is as a person. I'm very interested in.
Do you speak alien or
I think we'll have to get a translator.
international translator? Okay.
Yeah, they're out there,
Hire Amy Adams from Arrival. See if she can.
There you go.
Man.
Tell you what, if we combine Arrival in this movie, it might be the best movie of all time. So I'm
found footage Arrival, Cody. Is that
no,
what
God, no. If you're listening, don't even think about it. But who do you want to invite?
I'm gonna invite the guy who yells at him in Russian when they're like running down the street. And there's just the
Yeah.
one guy. He's like,
I think
he's
telling them not to go that way. I think
Yeah, it's not a good idea. He seems like he's a smart guy. Let's find out what happened to him. And again, I guess we also need a translator for that one as well. So
That's a fun moment.
can get us
TJ
all on the
Miller's
pod.
Isn't TJ Miller like, I don't speak Russian, dude. Like, I don't understand what you're saying, which is funny, but I like that pick.
Thank you. Fight. Who are you gonna fight, Cody?
I'm gonna fight Beth. I mean, I already talked about it a little bit earlier, but I don't get why she's bringing a different guy to this party when.
Well, why don't you fight her boyfriend?
Because he probably didn't even know what was going on. He's clueless. He's kind of
Have
there
a good
just to get beat
time.
up.
What's he say to him?
He said, "Good luck tonight."
Yeah, good luck tonight.
Which is a dumb line. But I mean, what is that, bro? I get it. Like relationships, he broke up with her pretty much, so she can move on as quickly as she wants. But the guy's going to Japan. Like, this is a send away party to go to Japan. Either don't show up or, show up without your new boyfriend. I think those are the two options here.
I think you're taking the wrong side here. I'm fighting Rob. He's the fucking asshole here, Cody. He didn't call
He
her
is an
back.
asshole.
Come on.
They're both
I think
assholes.
Nah. She's the hurt one here. I think you're. She's completely. What did she do wrong?
She brought her boyfriend to his going away party.
Yeah, but it's to get back. It's a return. I mean, it's all retaliation.
I mean, what's the point? He's going to Japan anyways. I don't know. If you want to make a statement, just don't show up. I think that's what I say.
But you gotta say goodbye. I don't know. Night, Cody. Who you in a night?
My night, it is going to be, and we've talked about this in length, but it's going to be the marketing people for this movie. I think this is an insane campaign. I mean, when I was trying to figure out who I wanted tonight, it's like all these characters aren't very redeeming. I mean, we're having an argument about like the two main characters on who we dislike more. So I think that's very telling. But yeah, I mean, the people behind the camera releasing that first trailer you described beautifully, I think deserve a night because I think that is all-time marketing and something I wish we saw more. Yeah,
it's a really good shout out there. Very deserving. Got the butts in the seats. And I'll want to shout out Longlegs, this new horror movie that's coming out. The marketing for that has been similar. They've been doing a lot of call this number and hear like this weird voice and go to this website and get these clues. And here's a cryptogram, like very interesting stuff. So at least somebody is attempting to do something similar, but we don't really get a lot of viral marketing in the same way like this. So I think it's very cool. I'm going to knight Marla. She wasn't even supposed to be there, man. She's not supposed to be with him. Yeah, Lizzie Kaplan. Her head explodes, and she's getting weirdly creeped on by TJ Miller all night, which is unfortunate. So
yeah,
she's kind of just following along. She's the person who doesn't deserve it.
Yeah, she's the outsider of the group, and I mean, she doesn't even want to be there from the get-go.
But I guess she got paid the most, so.
Yeah,
maybe I don't need to knight her. I don't know.
Well, her head did get popped off though, so I think she deserves it.
Fair enough. The recast, Cody.
What are you? I'm Batman. I'm Batman.
I'm Batman.
I'm Batman. Because I'm Batman. I'm Batman.
I am vengeance. I am the night. I am Batman.
Hey, I'm Batman. No, dude. No, I'm Batman.
This is a tough one. I struggle here. Joseph Quinn, put him in the movie. Okay. give me Joseph Quinn as I
love that.
As Rob.
His brother.
Or his brother, sure. Yeah, let him die. Or not TJ Miller. I don't know. It's hard to pick people. And then my other pitch is if we're going to do another Cloverfield movie in the anthology world, I want to see Jordan Peele's spin on a Cloverfield movie, because I think that would be really cool. Again, he's a guy who can take real world societal things. Obviously, he's getting to make his own original movies and doesn't have to play in the franchise world, which is awesome. But if he wants to take a dip into that area, pair up with JJ, do a little Bad Robot Monkey Paw Cloverfield 4th movie. I'd love to see it.
Yeah, he worked with Paramount Plus in the past on the Twilight Zone, which I saw a couple episodes of that and I did like it. So I'm on board. I mean, give Jordan Peele anything that he has a vision and wants to do, and I mean, nobody's going to tell him no at this stage. So I love that a lot. And yeah, I was similar too in trying to come up with some recastings. It is tough. I kind of just went like full JJ franchise mode and said I don't really care. So the two actors who I think are the worst in this, I think it is Rob's brother. Is his name Jason? Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. Shout out Jason. Shout out my brother. But
played by Mike Vogel.
He did. So I mean, the big thing with his character is like you want to have that emotional punch. Because I think that scene of like Rob trying to process like his brother's dead, I think that's pretty good, like pretty emotional stuff. But I think it could have been better. And I think if we had a different actor, how about Chris Pine? It's going to make it really emotional. Obviously, the JJ connection. I mean, this is even before Star Trek, so he's not as well known. I think would have been good. And then also to replace the main girl, what's her name? Liz? Is that right?
Lily.
There, I knew it was a match. So I can't even remember her name. That's how forgettable she is.
It's not really a movie where you need to know names, though, either, to be fair.
Yeah, but I know Rob. Like, I mean, I feel like he's recognized.
What does that say about you, Cody?
I follow the main characters. I don't know, but for Lily, I want Zoe Saldana in this role. I think it would add some punch, add obviously just a better actor altogether, and make her much more memorable. So I think a little bit of Star Trek infused into Cloverfield, pre-Star Trek would have been cool.
All right, I like those connections. I think an early Chris Pine and an early Zoe Saldana would be fun. However, I think she's busy with Avatar right now.
Yeah. I mean, that probably took like 5 years to film, right? Jimmy Cameron likes his reshoots.
True. I guess it was probably fully in post-production at this point, so she could have squeezed it in.
Also, I mean, this movie, I don't know. I feel like it got filmed fairly quickly. Like, it was on a tight schedule, I would think. But I don't know.
Rating, Cody.
As you proceed through the poetry in this book, practice this rating method.
Out of 69, what do you want to rate this movie?
This is tough, man. I mean, I don't know. It's in that 3.5 stars for me. And I think that range for me is like, I like this movie. I have clear problems with it, but I enjoyed it. I'd watch it again. I don't know. I think I'm going to put it at 44 out of 69. I think of this as like a Star Trek reference, like the neutral zone, or just somewhere in the middle where I'm not really sure where to place all this stuff. I know this is where it belongs, but I don't know if it's on the upper echelon or the lower echelon. It's kind of just there. It's good. I like it. But it's hard to compare to other stuff, similar to it.
Yeah, I think it's one where it's like you could probably watch it one time and like it a little bit more, then watch it again and like a little bit. Like it'll fluctuate in that. I agree, 3.5 star range. I'm gonna give it a 48, which is the same thing I gave Happy Gilmore, which I know you'll not be happy about, but they do. We're in a similar area for me.
I respect that. Shout out Happy Gilmore.
Tomato.
Tomato. I'm throwing tomato.
Cody, what are we gonna do here? I think we do J.J. Abrams. What do you think?
Okay, I like that. I like that a lot.
Any J.J. project, produced or starring.
Okay. Ooh, man, I think he's made some real stinkers too. Whose pick is it first? Is it mine? I think it's my first.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I'm coming off a couple losses in our previous pod, so I gotta go all out here. I think for my first pick, I can't think of anything worse that he's done, but I mean, there's a couple of his movies I really just hate and can go on massive tangents on. I think I'm going to take The Rise of Skywalker for my low pick. It's got to be like 20-30 range, which I think will be low enough for JJ.
Yeah, I think it is pretty 51%. So,
Hey, that's not that bad. Wow.
Could be worse.
There's surely worse stuff that he's done, but how does that have a 51? Oh my! This planet, man.
I'm gonna take the Cloverfield paradox because I think that's probably lower, and he is a producer.
He's a producer?
Yeah, I mean, he's the producer of all these Cloverfield movies, 22%. So there you go.
That's kind of cheating. Okay, and then for my big, I'm going to go with The Force Awakens. I believe that is
It's
somewhere
definitely high. It's definitely
in
high.
the 90s, I would think, because it's a hell of a movie. But it's got to be up there.
93%. So
Bingo,
you're like a 42 gap, right? It was a 51, I think.
Yeah. Yep.
All
right on the money.
So
What's your high pick?
I just got to get over 60 something, you know.
Take a Star Trek Into Darkness, bro.
I'm gonna take Super 8, just because it's a shout out a movie that I do like. I'm sure it's high
60s, mid 60s.
I'm sure it's high enough. 81%. People love the Fanning girl. Which one is it? Dakota L? I don't know. I saw that movie probably when I was like 13, and I really liked it, but I haven't seen it since, so I don't know.
Fair enough. Worth a revisit, probably.
Also, a big. I think I was an early JJ fan.
Yeah.
You know, I like Lost, but I'm not a. I'm out on him since obviously Rise of Skywalker. I could have picked The Last Jedi for the reference and still won, because I'm pretty sure that is like a 90 something.
Yeah, he is a producer in that. I keep forgetting that we were doing producer credits for that too, but yeah, I think that's even higher than The Force Awakens somehow, which is an absolute joke. But
they're both 91. So
okay, nice. I feel like he's super hit or miss. Like his stuff that is good, I really like. Obviously, he's done a couple, or he's definitely been a producer on a couple Mission Impossible movies that are pretty good as well. So I think he's done, a decent amount of stuff, and most of I like. I think Lost, kind of as a start in TV, is a really cool starting point of just like an action sci-fi guy. So shout out JJ, man. Definitely one of my favorites still, even though Into Darkness is just absolutely terrible.
Mission Impossible 3 is a 71. It's okay.
I thought he directed one of them, didn't he?
Yeah, he directed the third one, Mission Impossible 3.
Oh, that was the one with Philip Seymour Hoffman. Okay. Yeah. I thought that was the fourth one.
This movie has a 78% on Rotten Tomatoes, Cloverfield. The first Star Trek's a 94. He really does have a lot of higher movies. There's not too much too low. Cloverfield Paradox, I think, is the really the lowest option.
Gotta be. Yeah.
Could have gone for. So nailed that one on the head. Star Trek Beyond is an 86. Star Trek Into Darkness, 84, Cody. So the people love them.
84?
84 for Into Darkness.
That's shocking. I'll never watch that movie again.
10 Cloverfield Lane is a 90%.
What's the audience score on Into Darkness? 30?
89, man.
Oh my god.
The fans love it. It's just fucking it's Wrath of Khan.
It's like Wrath of Khan, like 10 times worse though. I don't know. Everything about that movie is just bad. You can't convince me otherwise, I don't think.
Well, last but not least, Cody, weekly watches.
How's the movie?
What movie?
Hasn't been Star Trek Into Darkness, but what have you been watching?
Thank goodness. For me, it's been a lot of TV. I did revisit one movie that we did an episode on, X-Men Days of Future Past, which I'm still grinding my way through these X-Men movies. I think I just know what's upcoming soon with like Apocalypse and Dark Phoenix.
Slowing down a little bit.
Slow down a little bit, yeah. Just don't really want to go into those. But
you gonna watch New Mutants? Yes or no?
I will, because I've never seen that either. So I'm interested to check that out. But TV wise, there's been a lot obviously still coming out. The thing that I did binge all the way through was, well, not really, because only half of it was released, and that's That 90s Show.
Oh, I was gonna ask you about this, yeah.
Yeah, so they released part 1 of the second season. I don't even know when part 2 is coming out. It's very, very stupid. But it was okay. I mean, I think I did like the first season a little bit better. This one really relies on like cameos from That 70s Show. Like every episode, there's somebody like just random who I didn't even really like in That 70s Show. Like not one of the main cast, one of like the
just
weird...
like, or who can we get back? Yeah.
Yeah. So they rely on that a lot, which I don't love. And I'm just gonna spoil it too, because I don't think anybody really cares. But the season finale, Jay and Silent Bob,
the part 1 finale,
right? Not even the finale, I guess. But Jay and Silent Bob show up, and they run their car through the Foreman kitchen. So I thought that was really weird, and I didn't really like it. But interesting stuff, I guess. I mean, I'll keep watching it just because I'm like super nostalgic for That 70s Show. But if you didn't watch That 70s Show, I wouldn't recommend it. But other than that, some other TV. The third season of The Bear has, of course, come out. I've checked out like the first 3 episodes, which the first episode I really didn't like. It's a weird thing where it's kind of just like a bunch of flashbacks for the first couple seasons, but maybe just like kind of newer scenes, but also stuff that we've kind of seen. So I didn't really like that at all. And then the two after that, it's kind of like Carmi's just a dickhead who's like, I don't know, that the restaurant's going downhill and it's his fault. So we'll see where it goes. I'll probably just binge the whole thing before our next episode and give my whole season review. So stay tuned for that. And then as well, I checked out the 5th episode of The Acolyte, which stuff actually happened in this episode. So I was happy to see that. And some cool lightsaber fights, like the choreography and stuff is pretty good, and a good amount of death happens. So I was happy to see that. But yeah, I don't know. Like this is definitely the best episode of the show, I would think. But I still didn't like it that much. So not a very strong recommendation there either. And then the last thing, which is very much a recommendation, I rewatched my favorite season of Survivor, Survivor Cagayan.
Oh, yeah.
Have you ever seen that one, Corbin?
Yeah, of course. It's one of the ones you told me to watch first. Shout out Tony.
Yeah, shout out Tony. Shout out Spencer. Shout out Chaos Cass. I mean, this cast is unbelievable. I think if you don't like Survivor, if you do love Survivor, watch this season. I think you're gonna enjoy it regardless. But
it's just like a winner who just like fucking outplayed it, like just played the best possible game. Like it's just impressive.
Yeah, I mean, he comes back and
does it again.
Season 42. So yeah, he's legit. But love that season, and that's probably the only thing I've watched. Actually, I forgot to say with Days of Future Past too. I watched the Road Cut for the first time in a while, and I didn't love it as much. I think the nostalgia goggles are coming off a little bit. It got bumped down to a 4.5.
But was that because it was the Road Cut?
I don't. That's
too much Rogue.
That's what I was thinking too, but I don't know. There were just some parts that didn't work for me as much as they normally did. So my only real rec here is Cagayan, I think. But what have you been into lately?
I watched Inside Out 2, a little double feature with A Quiet Place Day 1. I thought it was okay. Maya Hawke is pretty solid as Anxiety. I actually didn't think Io was like amazing in the Envy role, and I like just all the other characters were fine. Like,
yeah,
Paul Walter Hauser isn't actually really doing much, but he's there, making a lot of noises, calling out Vin Diesel on the press tour. I thought Amy Poehler, she is older. Like, I don't know, she doesn't sound as the same as she did, in the first Inside Out. Like, it to me is not as fun as the original. There's a ton of hockey, which I get enough of that, I'll just say, in my life. I don't need any more. But it's fine. It's crazy that it's made that much money. It's crazy.
It's booming. You're a hater. I'll have to check it out and get my thoughts. But I think you're just down. You don't like Bing Bong either, do you?
No. Pouchy is, I guess, the equivalent in this movie.
Okay.
Not really the equivalent, but it's not good, man. I don't know.
Sad.
No, it's not. It's fine. It's a fun movie. I don't know why I'm being such a downer. Like, it is. The thing that I identified is like, it is not a movie for people like us. To me, it's a movie about puberty for people who are just about to go through puberty. It's like, here are things that you are about to experience. The anxiety is real. It's going to be present in your life. How can you deal with these things? But it's not necessarily like the full extent, right? It's a little bit of a watered down, here's what the first like 5 minutes are going to look like for you. So like, as someone who's like lived through, life and high school and everything beyond that, it's like, this is just a dipping a toe in of everything to come,
You're saying this is some BS. Show the kids the real stuff.
Yeah, exactly. It's watered down, man. Sanitized. Fucking show the kids the truth. It's also just like,
you as a parent is going to be scary.
The uncut gems, Kody.
I've heard that.
You see that? Yeah. This is director bullshit. We were really inspired by Uncut Gems.
Good movie.
You just get annoyed because like Riley's doing things you don't want Riley. Like, she's making bad decisions in the way that fucking whatever his name is.
Sandler pawned off the championship ring and stuff.
Stop doing that. Don't make more bets. Come on, you just got your money back. Riley, don't steal the notebook. Like, oh my God. I've also been watching a lot of 9/11 movies in preparation for this podcast.
Yeah.
I watched World Trade Center, which is the Oliver Stone kind of like docudrama starring Michael Pena and Nicolas Cage. It's about basically the second and third to last people who were pulled out alive from the rubble of the World Trade Center. So they were essentially these cops who were going there to help people, and then the buildings collapsed in on top of them. It's a fine movie. It's basically just like a lot of them trapped in rubble. Like, it is a very long portion of the movie of like Pena and Cage, like, I can't move my arms, I can't move my legs. And like, I guess it's probably got some 127 hours energy in that regard. But it was definitely a tough watch. You know, it's an emotional movie at certain points with like the family stuff. That stuff is hard to avoid, but it feels, again, taking advantage of the situation to a certain extent. And it's an interesting framing device for sure, of path police officers. And then Remember Me, which of course is the Robert Pattinson movie
twist, right?
that is not a 9/11 movie, but then it is at the end.
Crazy twist.
And it's not even like a plot twist, you know? It's just like, it's tough because the entire movie is about grief. It's about two characters who've experienced trauma. It made me think a lot about, you know, the trauma core movies that we've been getting over the last 10, 15, 20 years. Robert Pattinson, his brother has killed himself. Shout out to the bear. And then the female character who plays his love interest, Emily DeRavin. Her mother was shot on a subway when she was a child right in front of her, right? So they both have these traumatic events, and they're like coming together to kind of overcome these tragedies. But then at the end of the movie, it's like, oh, Robert Pattinson is gonna fucking die in the World Trade Center, and everybody around him now has these further tragedies that they have to experience. I wish the movie just ended, because the thing is, the movie doesn't end out on like the pan out. Like, I thought that is how the movie ended. Like, oh, pull out, he's in the Twin Towers, movie cuts to black. It doesn't. It goes on for another like 5-10 minutes, and you're like, have to see the characters be sad and go to the funeral. And I think that stuff is really lame and unaffecting. And again, it's a movie that feels like it's taking advantage of this situation and this time in our history, right? And really unfortunate events. And then also I watched today.
Fun title.
Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close.
Say that 10 times.
Is probably the worst of them all. The one that feels the most like it's taking advantage of the situation. This Viola Davis appears in this movie. She also appears in World Trade Center. So shout out to her for being in 2 9/11 movies. But nice. This movie is about a child whose father, played by Tom Hanks, dies in 9/11. And then like in the subsequent year is like trying to grapple with that, and also like discover some mystery that may or may not have been left behind by his father. It's bad. It's like it's like trauma porn. It's fucking, and again, the kid's like autistic, and he's going around and, you know, spouting off facts, and Sandra Bullock plays his mother, and it's purposely pulling at your heartstrings in the most unfortunate ways. There's like these series of voice messages that Tom Hanks records from the fucking North Tower of the Twin Towers right before it goes to, like, it's really awful stuff. Yeah. And then the last one, which is the one that if I'm going to recommend, I actually did really like. No, I wouldn't say really like. The one that I appreciated the most was United 93, which is the movie about United Airlines Flight 93, which is about the people who kind of stood up to the terrorists. And you know, it was the fourth plane that crashed in the field in Pennsylvania. And that movie is directed by Paul Greengrass. And it was interesting. Matt Reeves never really talks about 9/11 over the course of that commentary. But the thing he does bring up is that the crash at the end of the movie, United 93, he thought was so visceral and so real, and he wanted to recapture that with the helicopter crash in Cloverfield. And he got the same people to do that. Like they hired the same visual effects team, and they got with the same crew. And this movie, it again is playing a little bit on, you know, the emotionality of the situation, the trauma situation, but it is much more focused on just like regular people and like the panic of the day. I think that's what it captures the most, is just like, whether it's the people in the plane who are obviously experiencing the hijacking, which is very visceral and very awful, or the people who are working air traffic control and are on the ground. Like, nobody fucking knew what to do. And it was just like absolute panic. And that's why, you know, one plane crashed and then like another was able to get there, and then another was able to hit because it was just like no one was prepared for the situation. It was just utter panic and scary, anxiety and horror. And obviously, that is a major cultural event that has probably had the greatest lasting impression of anything that has happened in the 21st century. We've grown up in the shadow of that. So it's been interesting to, watch Cloverfield and then, watch all these other movies that have been made kind of as responses or in the shadow of that. Steven Spielberg's War of the Worlds is another one that's very much like, what if you took this classic alien story and set it in New York, New Jersey and made it, as a reflection of 9/11? Cinema's in the context. You exist in the context. You didn't fall out of a coconut tree, Kody.
I do like that. And United 93, I do like that movie. That was one of my mom's movies that she showed me. Shout out to her. And then out of those other ones, I've only seen the weird title one. What is it? Incredibly Loud and something close.
Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close.
That's what it is.
Best Picture
Terrible.
nominee.
Terrible. Yeah. Great cast. But I don't like that movie at all. So I wouldn't recommend
Jeffrey
that
Wright
one.
is in it as well. Plays Viola Davis's ex-husband.
Shout out. Love the Wright man.
And Max von Sydow. Like, it's a good
cast.
People who knew should have known better.
Yeah. The subject material, I think, rubbed him in a little bit, which is fair. But yeah, definitely an interesting time. I always feel like with that too, like I feel like we were just, or maybe myself specifically, just like too young. Like I don't remember 9/11, so it didn't have like that visceral, like lasting effect. But like that is this generation's, I think, like most memorable and crazy moment. I guess other than the pandemic.
Like everything so many of the events that have happened in our lives are really direct results of that. Like, what we are seeing today now is still greatly affected by that. So
you gotta watch Vice.
States and
you gotta watch Vice next, I think. Yeah. Complete the
I think I have an Adam Sandler one queued up. So get ready for the report on that next week.
Love that.
This has been a fun episode and a long one, but I've enjoyed discussing Cloverfield. Cody, it's your pick next. What are we doing, man?
Ooh, I don't know. I'll have to deep dive. I mean, I think we could go some X-Men stuff. I think that'd be fun.
We might have some time to wait for Deadpool, but we'll see.
True. I mean, it comes out at the end of the month. Yes, we probably got a couple weeks in between. I don't know. I'll have to brainstorm and pick something fun for the summer here. But we'll see. Stay tuned.
Stay tuned.
Stay capping.
Peace.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it.